Introducing the all-new Western Enforcer V-Plow. Engineered with all the features, efficiency, and performance of full-size Western V-Plows, built specifically for your half-ton truck. For more information, visit westernplows.com.
Mike Bott from Frost Solutions, one of the owners of the company. What we do is provide a mini weather station to give you a tailored forecast to those particular locations so you know where and when and what to do in those parts of town. You know there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different ways that people can experience tremendous value having a technology like this.
Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey with your host, Dave Westcott. The Entrepreneurial Journey is a weekly podcast that streams live every Tuesday at 9:15 a.m. Pacific on Dave's YouTube channel and LinkedIn profile. Now here's Dave with this week's episode.
Good morning and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey. I'm your host, Dave Westcott. I've got Dionis Agustin.
Yes, sir.
Did I crush that or what? With New Life in Everett, and we've got Brock Bruland. God, that was an easy one.
Yep.
And he's with Arlington Assembly, and then we've got Pastor David Lundquist. Today we are talking about youth ministries and how they impact local kids.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for being on the show. I guess you guys are sharing a mic.
Yeah. It's all good.
You've done that before?
Yeah.
Are you guys
not with each other.
not with each other?
This will be the first time.
Are you guys friends?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you know each other.
Yeah.
So youth pastors hook up and connect.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there like an association for youth pastors, or it's just
I mean,
hey, we're both youth pastors and we got together?
I think that's the heart for every youth pastor. We like to get together and like share ideas, encourage each other, because like it's a pretty niche thing that we do, and not everyone understands what it's like. So being able to partner together, but I would say a lot of times whether you're part of like a denomination or what, a lot of times you'll have that already kind of built in. But it's always good to partner with other local youth pastors.
So you're dealing with a lot of kids who talk back, have bad attitudes. Let me tell you this story. We're going to kick it off like this.
Do it.
I was in the youth group when I was a kid growing up. And one particular incident happened on a bus ride.
Oh,
So we left Westgate Chapel, which is where I went to youth group, and we went to some other church in Federal Way. And there was a group of kids I didn't particularly get along with. I think some actually related to Pastor Dave.
Probably.
And let's see, what happened was we got into an argument on the bus, and I punched one of these kids in the face and split his eye open, and he was not very happy. And Pastor Matt was the pastor at the time. And what did he do? Nothing.
You didn't do anything?
you didn't catch bets or anything?
No, he didn't do anything.
He didn't toss you off the bus?
Well, how would I got home?
You know, there has to be consequences in life, you know?
For that particular incident, there was no consequences. But this group of kids, I would say that, we got into a fight in the sanctuary of the youth group church. And it rolled outside, and there was like 5 or 6 of us rolling around, tussling, punching one another. Just, it was always tempers flared.
So this is round 2 on the bus.
Oh, this was after the bus. So we had the bus, and then we had another incident, and we probably had 2 or 3 other incidents.
Oh, my word.
And yeah.
I don't remember. I don't know. Maybe this was special. Have you guys had many fights in youth group? I don't remember any.
There was one time at a different youth group I was at. It was girls were calling each other out and being like, "Hey, meet me outside." And
Girl fight is even worse. So.
Yeah. So, and that was strange to me. Like normally girls fight with their words, but when they're wanting to get physical, it's like that got me nervous.
Yeah.
But we addressed it before it got to that point.
Huh.
Yeah, the closest we've ever been we're lucky enough to have a gym. So sometimes the boys it gets a little out of hand and they start pushing and shoving, but
Take it out on the court, you mean?
Yeah, that's it. I don't know if I've never seen a kid throw a punch at youth group. So
There was one kid that threw a punch over a foosball game. Yeah.
Wow.
And that took me by surprise.
We were seriously fighting, trying to hurt one another.
Yeah.
These were serious fights that we were getting into.
Wow.
what was it over?
At the church. Well, there was like, these were like I would say more entitled,
Sure.
Christian school,
The rich kids.
fast cars, and I was more of the rock and roll, Megadeth,
Sure.
rocking type person, and we just clashed. I mean, it was just like wham, and it just was not good. It was not good. So we had a lot of battles there. I won't say any names in case they listen to the show, but they remember, lest you forget.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about youth ministry. What do you guys, what's a typical week like for you guys? We're going to end up talking about camps here because that's really our desire. But, what happens with a youth pastor and youth camps? I mean, do you work one day a week or do you have to work a little bit more than that?
It's kind of funny you ask. I get asked all the time. Last night, actually, we were doing open gym, and I was there with youth students, and one of them looked at me. She's like, "So what do you do for work?" And I'm like, well, "Believe it or not, actually, this." So yeah, I think we're both lucky enough to be full time. So for us, we do Wednesday night services, junior high and high school. So our youth group is 6th through 12th grade. And then, so it's just Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Just working on messages, like you said, getting ready for camps and conferences and meeting, hanging out with students. We're lucky enough. We go to choir concerts. Last week we were at a play, football games, different stuff, just hanging out with students. And it's really a lot of fun. Yeah, we enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm really similar. We do a Wednesday night and then a Sunday morning gathering for both high school and middle school students. And then it gets the same questions. What do you do for work? And it's like, I do this. And they're like, wait, what? What do you do during the week? And it's like
This.
But planning this and making things happen. And then every once in a while we'll do one Sunday a month. We do a late night like snack thing that we call it snack, but which is going to be Cinco de Mayo for us, and we'll be doing laser tag at the
I
church.
love Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah. So
This is one of my favorite holidays.
You guys got a big leadership team though too you're working with, right?
Yeah. I don't think I could do youth leadership or youth work without youth leaders. I think that they're like a prime key.
Youth leaders are kids in the youth group who kind of step up that you work with, or they're like
Sometimes
people in the
both.
church.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times there are adults within the church. A lot of them have been raised through the youth ministry. But a lot of times I have a lot of I don't want to say elderly people, but I have some older volunteers that are playing Foursquare just as hard as those middle schoolers.
Really?
Yeah. There's one lady, I think she's around in her 60s, and she not only cooks her pancakes on Sunday mornings, but she'll spend time playing Foursquare, and every once in a while I'll see her on the ground, because she's going out for trying to not get the ball out of bounds or something, and I'm like, don't hurt yourself. And
I don't know about you guys, but I think some of our best leaders were, a little bit up in age.
Yep.
I mean, but it's great to have obviously
The
young,
spectrum.
the full
Yeah.
spectrum.
Yeah.
Have some of the student leaderships, have some college students, have some, young families. Yeah, it's all great.
Yeah, that is great. So what is the mission of the youth group? Like, why? What? Like, what is your mission? What is your goal with these kids?
Sure. Yeah. I know for us, I think it's different, but kind of all the same. So for our youth ministry, we just designed some new merch. Arlington Assembly is literally on a hill. So we kind of been using this little light of mine theme, and we just challenge our students that, listen, we want to see students first, experience and have a relationship with Jesus personally, but then really to go out and make disciples for Jesus and shine that light, like a city on a hill for the city of Arlington and around Arlington and beyond. Because, at youth group, right, we're training and, building our relationships with Jesus, but a lot of the real work, I believe, happens, at the dinner table, in the classroom, on the field, on the court. But yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, we're pretty similar in that same approach. We say we're following Jesus together, and we're developing. We're just adopting everything that the main church does, and we're just adapting it to youth life. So following Jesus together, and this year we're wanting to reach one and be one. And so when we slowed down after our lead pastor kind of like delivered that vision for us, and I was just like, hey, students, how are we going to reach one? And so I have one of my youth leaders who's like super passionate about outreach and evangelism, like sat our students down and talked about the gospel and stuff, and like had the kids practice sharing the gospel in 45 seconds and then sharing their story. And then we take time to like, hey, every time we're together, whether that's a Sunday or a Wednesday or we are at your games, like we're building unity and we're like supporting each other, building each other up.
You have two totally different environments. One, you're in Arlington, which is like a little more country,
Yep.
a little bit more redneck-ish, not in a bad way, but probably kids wearing Arlington Hardware clothes.
Oh yeah.
And Carhartt jeans and whatever.
Every week.
Yeah. I am anti-Arlington Hardware. and you, I don't like Arlington Hardware. I don't know why. I just look at them. They're getting some free publicity, so good for them. And then you're more metro.
And we get a lot of students. We have some students from like down in Edmonds up to Stanwood. So
Okay.
we do have a kind of a wide range, but we do have some local schools that are very urban. And
You've got it seems like a more unchurched, little tougher market. I don't know. I mean, your people seem like they're going to be more like, let's go to church. Let's love the Lord.
Sure. Yeah, I think I would say, I mean, I've never been to
Let's
New
go
Life.
tip some cows.
Yeah. I would say there's a great foundation of, like, a lot of churches you'll come in, and maybe there's 5 to 10 students like attending on Sunday mornings. A cool thing about Arlington, like you say, is, there's a good 20, 25 students, on Sunday mornings. And yeah, I think we have a pretty good representation. We have students from, like, as far as I look at it, like with schools, so we have Arlington, Stanwood, Lakewood, and Lake Stevens are our 4 main schools that students will come from. But yeah, it's a lot. I was in Bellingham first when I first got into youth ministry, which I think would compare a little bit more to Everett than Arlington would. But yeah, it's definitely different for sure.
Interesting statistic. I was at a conference over the weekend, and an interesting statistic came out of it. And it said that the average female student who is 19 years old will have more sexual partners than a woman who's 58 years old today. If you compared the two today, at 19 years old, a girl has slept with more men than a 58-year-old woman.
Wow.
That means that's happening in your congregations today, right? Like you see drug abuse at an all-time high, right? You see more kids overdosing from things like fentanyl, so on and so forth. You see so much drugs in the schools, whether they're smoking pot or they're, smoking cigarettes or they're drinking alcohol. Like there's such an epidemic of kids using drugs and that sort of thing. And then you've got kids who come to youth group, and then you see a lot of kids come to youth group and maybe they go to college or maybe they start their life and they fade away. Kind of makes me think of the parable where the seed is thrown out, right? And some fell on good soil, some fell on rocky soil, some fell in the weeds. But how do you navigate like really tough situations like that with the youth, knowing that promiscuity is at this crazy all-time high, that drug abuse is at this crazy all-time high, that, you know, at least it seems like kids in the U.S., like it seems like the U.S. needs a mission field as much as the other countries in the world. You're at the precipice, the forefront of when a kid comes in to church or maybe has grown up in church, but almost where they get lost. How do you deal with that on the battlefield? How are you guys looking at those really sensitive and tough topics?
I think the one key thing is like you can't be surprised when people mess up or when people are making unwise decisions. Like it's really easy to like, you know, make the snap judgment of what's going on, but like we're all really messed up. And if I could open up and tell my whole story, I can't be surprised.
That's your father-in-law. I just want to remember you. I just want to remind you. Do you need to say a prayer before we have this conversation?
Yeah, no, but I mean, there's been times where I've sat down in Dave's office, like to like open up about my heart and what's been going on, and like he wasn't surprised when I was broken, and what I needed was someone to like remind me of who I truly was. And so I think, yes, there's drug use, and yeah, there's students that are sleeping around or sending pictures of themselves. But like, I think you just got to meet students where they're at and remind them like who they are and who God like created them to be, and like bringing them along the journey and not expecting them just to have like a behavior shift and change right on the moment, but really bringing them along.
Yeah, I would say, I'm sure this has been a thing forever, but for sure over the last 4 years that I've been in youth ministry, and I know you can relate. I mean, identity. It's something that we touch on weekly, monthly. You'll hear messages about it because no matter what the circumstance is, whether they're coming from, whether it's a broken home, maybe their parents are divorced, maybe they don't know their mom or dad. There's a lot of that, or the internet. That I see this on the internet. I'm comparing, and there's this huge comparison game. Well, this person has this perfect family, and this person looks this type of way, and over time you see it with students where their identity is just completely shattered. So I think one of the biggest responsibilities for us in youth ministry is to present and help students understand the fact that is this. Listen, yeah, your parents are divorced. Yeah, your dad's an alcoholic. Yeah, you feel this kind of way, but all that can be true, but you are still a child of God. End of story. And that's where you find your identity. And I think when we can communicate that well is when you see students really start to open up, and lean into what God has for them.
It's a little bit of a layered approach as well, because, it's giving them that information. But I know as well that summer camp, which, we want to get to, is that opportunity for them to also have an experience with God, a personal, personal testimony, a personal experience with God, where God speaks to them and kind of just does the reorder of their heart. And I mean, nothing can change, a moment in God's presence where all of a sudden he says the words. It's one thing coming from us, and as a former youth pastor myself, you can say it, and sometimes it's in one ear, out the other. But then all of a sudden you go to a summer camp and all of a sudden God says it to them in a way that only God can do. And all of a sudden you see a life transformed, because it's like all of the information now becomes their information, their reality. And all of a sudden, everything that you've said makes sense, and that light bulb turns on. So tell us about summer camp, because I know part of what we want to do here is talk about the power of summer camps. I know we are really into giving some scholarships, especially for some needy kids to get to camp. Why are summer camps important?
If you think about it, if you have one, maybe two youth gatherings a week, that's maybe an hour 2 hours that you get with a student, where they spend the rest of their time at school and with family. And a lot of times that's where the reinforcement of the lies that they tell themselves and the things that they believe, the things that they're stuck in, that really grabs hold. And so to remove them out of that and have 4 or 5 days away, we have actually at our camp, we actually have kids unplug, and we have them leave their phones at home. And you get 24 hours for days on end with these students, and having leaders be able to share with their lives. We're actually having a lot of our students are like, hey, I really want to talk to our leaders about things, but I don't know if like they'll reject me, or if they'll, how they'll take it. And so like, whether it's, you're in a church service or you're in the cabins, like there's opportunities for these kids to like open up. And one, like the leaders will absolutely like funnel them to like, hey, talk to God about that. But like, it's also an opportunity for the leaders to be like, this is where I was when I was your age, or this is what I was struggling with. And for them to be able to hear each other, it's like, it's really cool to see. And so like, it's crazy. There was one girl last year, she goes to one of the high schools in Everett, and she came pretty like ready to just jump in. She was really social and just really she was just really bubbly. But I didn't know that she was struggling with drugs, and she was in a friend group that wasn't great. And for her just to jump right on in was really cool. And so it not only being at camp allowed her to get a new friend group of people who at least are attempting to follow Jesus with their life. But it was the coolest thing was that she got saved at camp, and then right after camp, I don't know exactly what happened, but she had this medical episode where she like something going on with her spine. She was in the hospital at the beginning of the school year for months on end, and it was the coolest thing to see that her friends at church were like rallying around and praying for her. And she came back to youth group, and it was like a huge celebration to see her come back, knowing that she gave her heart to the Lord, and then going, man, this thing could really spin her out being hospitalized. Like, where's God in this moment? And like for a community to come around her, and for youth leaders to go visit her in the hospital to like celebrate her when she came back. And there was one youth night recently where she like gave a testimony of being healed. And it was just like the coolest thing over, just from last summer, to see just a life transformed and really loved and embraced by a community. So
that's great.
I think summer camps like is a big puzzle piece that really contributes to so many things in an aspect of a student's life that reinforces so much and is a building block.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah. I would say I think you're right on with the separation aspect is just huge. Getting students away from that brokenness that they live in every day, and the influences of things at school and in their homes or whatever, and just saying, hey, we're all here together, sometimes up to 400 students. And I think for me too, like even like when I was in school, you walk into a room and there's worship playing, and maybe it's not really your thing at first, but there's just something about walking into a room and seeing 300-400 students worshiping Jesus.
Yeah.
And there's something about it. I know our leaders too, like we talked to our leaders, and it's like, it was just unbelievable. And I think students have an opportunity to be like, not worried about what the person to the right or left is thinking or going to say, but to spend 4 or 5 days really experiencing and hearing what God has for them in their heart and the love that he has for them. And listen, like he died for you, he chose you, and you can have a relationship with him. And getting them to kind of see that without all the other distractions it's really important. And I mean, every year students, we come back, and whether it's on stage or we do like a testimony video, and students are getting saved. Students last year at winter camp, a bunch of kids came back wanting to get baptized. They'd given their heart to Jesus, and they want to get baptized. And I know for me, I got saved at camp. And I think it's a really unbelievable opportunity for students to kind of let go of everything that's happening, that that's out of their control.
Good.
And focus on Jesus for a week, and then bring that back into that broken world with them. It's amazing.
I have two questions. One, once you go to youth camp, what's the follow-up process like? Like, you have this really emotional experience, you meet with the Lord, maybe you accept the Lord, you're in prayer, you've got all these amazing connections, you leave.
Yep.
And then it kind of back to life as normal. And it's real easy to slip back into that old world. Do you have a built-in follow-up process? Do you have a cadence of communication, to try to keep that bond that's created at the camp?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's a real thing. I know from when I was a student, you come back, you're excited about Jesus, and then you're like, oh, that's still, the way it is.
A camp experience.
Yeah. And so I know for us, one of the things is I'm learning and just trying to be a better youth pastor is when we come back, I mean, it's always testimonies. We're sharing what God has done. And then one of the cool things about one of the things we do is after every message, we break up into small groups and we dive a little bit deeper. And those small groups, those are the same at summer camp. So when students come back, they're in the same small group. They're in that same group that was hanging out in the cabin when so-and-so got saved. They're back together every Wednesday night. We encourage them, be in group chats. But literally on Wednesday nights, what's next type of thing. How do I bring what I just experienced, this new relationship and this new kind of identity that I found, how do I bring it back? It's very important after every single camp, we take time in our messages and our small groups to show students like it is possible. This wasn't just a 4-day experience. This is a lifelong relationship.
I love that you keep them in the same groups.
Yeah.
That's really important.
Yeah.
Develop those relationships, friendships. Yeah.
And you kind of got to envision them with that. And I think that it kind of comes like naturally, but it's like, hey, these are the mountaintop experiences that are like, the flashbang, the thing that like really gets your attention, the thing that like, like you're stunned, right? But then like your faith is really walked out in the valleys, right? And so being able to tell the students and like envision them like, hey, like we could have a transformative like week at camp, but once we come back, like this is what life is. Like this is where like we need to like stay connected not only to each other but to Jesus, and like this is now where the rubber meets the road, and that's where small groups comes in, and that's where having key leaders to like really walk these students with them into discipleship, right? And just walking with them. And we have leaders that are over like specific grades, and so those leaders are going after their students, and I'm as well going after students too. But it's just really cool to see like
Power of leadership, though.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because you can't do it all. I mean, you can't be with 100 students.
Right.
I mean, you just can't. So, yeah.
Along that vein, how do you reach the uncool kids or the unpopularized kids? How do they feel that emotional connection or that acceptance at a youth camp? Is that on them to have to pour in, or is there engagement that you guys are proactively pushing on to help engage them?
Yeah, what I've seen is that you can't force a student into a lot of things. Like, so like there's times where I'll notice like kids like that are just sitting in the chair, right? And that was when I first started coming to youth. I got dragged to youth group with my sister, and I remember sitting there waiting to leave, right? And I just know that like it could take one moment, whether it's at youth camp or at a youth night. And so like when I see a kid not participate, I go, man, there's not that there's time and I could let it pass and I just let them do their thing, but like
There's going to be a moment.
Yeah, there could be a moment. And like whether it's with my acknowledgement and just coming alongside him, hey, what's going on? Or if it's a youth leader, having other students. A lot of times our students just go, man, there's kids in my cabin that are just chilling. Like, why? Like, come join us. And so that invite, like, it's so crazy, like having just a really diverse set of kids. You get them together and they have nothing in common. You know, you have kids that stay inside and play games all day, hanging out with kids that are, you know, the star athlete at school. And you're like, these kids probably wouldn't hang out together. But like to see them at camp, like knowing that there's like, I wish I could like give you this picture that I have, but like we have, there's times where in our cabin groups after camp or after services in camp, we do like small groups in our cabins. And like kids are bringing their friends into the conversations and like bringing it out of them. And so I think it's kind of like a nurtured thing that happens. Maybe not necessarily automatically, but
with some intention though too.
Yeah. And so like whether it's the leaders that are like going after kids and spending time with them, like there's a lot of free time at least at our camp during the day. Like there's games and stuff, but then during the day you could go swim at the lake, you could play and do things, but like we're pursuing those kids that are out, you know, on the fringe, you know, or out and about.
Do you guys ever touch topics like suicide, bullying, sexting, drugs, alcohol? Are these topics or coaching moments that you're having with groups at a time, or are these things that in the church you kind of leave alone?
We don't talk about it at all.
You don't talk about it at all. I mean, you never know.
Sure.
It's church. You know, sometimes things get swept under the rug.
I think
for us, it's something that we're having to break. We did a Christian sexuality series at the end of last school year. And it was pretty intense. It was a really long series, but like I had 6
It was like
graders.
16 weeks, right?
It was 12 to 16 weeks or something like that. I forget.
Yeah, it's crazy long.
Yeah, it was really long. And like, I mean, there were kids like, why are we talking about this? You know, it was insane. Talking about porn, talking about masturbation, talking about transgender, talking about just all these different topics that we know that kids are talking about. And it was really hard because some parents will be like, you're talking to my kid about what? But at the time I had a 6th grader tell me that they were a furry. And so it was like, this is conversations that are happening at their school. So
and what is a furry?
It's Brock. You want to take that away?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to. Well, I think this is my best guess. So we're
See, he's in the country.
Yeah.
You pass that off to the country boy. When you got a city problem.
Yeah. No.
See, I live in the country.
Yeah. There's all this identifying as different things.
Yeah.
Right.
And we could set our own identity.
So a furry would be someone who is identifying as a type of animal. I mean, it's like serious. Like I know at one of our middle schools, I don't know if this is still happening, but like we're talking like litter boxes, like tails and collars. And it seems unbelievable, but they believe it. They really believe that's what they are. So yeah,
Wow.
It's like you said, I mean, it's talking about
don't have kids.
Yeah. Right.
No.
And I mean, not every single student will struggle with that. But when we were going through this series, we had students there was one small group that I was part of, and the students were like, okay, I don't struggle with this, but like, how do I love, or how do I tell them about Jesus? How do I be Jesus around them?
Yeah.
And so, and that's kind of the level where we took it. And there were times where kids were coming to their leaders, saying, hey, this or that I'm struggling with, whether it's a sexual thing or drugs and alcohol.
Well, it's been a very interesting show. I'm a believer in the fact that having a kid as a parent is absolutely the worst thing you can do in the life of anybody. Is having a kid. Like I think it's horrible, right? This is a horrible world. If you ask me personally, it's an absolutely horrendous place. Bringing a kid into the world is a horrible thing.
It could be really
And then number 2 is bringing a kid into the world is absolutely the best thing in the world for you and your family personally. Like as a family nucleus, it's an amazing, beautiful, wonderful, amazing thing. But there's so much responsibility, I feel like, on the parents and on the leaders. And I feel like you guys have this really important job. And this job is almost, in my opinion, these jobs that you have as youth leaders, whether you're in high school or middle school or the first six, I don't know what they call that, but this is the most important job in the church.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what I think about it is that this is what I think about pastors in general. So I'm going to give you my view on what you guys do.
Watch out.
And
scared,
this
but
is
excited.
serious. This is because I think a lot of people look at it this way, and I think like a lot of pastors have an employee mindset. Okay, and if I go around this building today, I'm not going to talk smack about these people, but these people have a job that they do. They don't really care about that job maybe when they leave. They don't really care about that job before they get here. Gallup says that an all-time high of 75% of all workforce is unengaged from employment. They go home, they want to live their life. They don't want to take a call on the weekend. They don't want to take an email on the weekend. They're so ingrained in let's live my life, let's live my experience, so on and so forth. And then you look at that and you say, okay, it's all about self-serving. It's all about the self-service. It's all about me and what I get out of my life, and it's all about my experience. And I had an opportunity to be in a group of CEOs over the weekend, and I would say, there's 450 companies there, and they're probably averaging somewhere in the neighborhood of 75 million each in revenue. And one gentleman in particular does 3 billion in revenue. And one thing that's really interesting is if you look at the CEO mindset, if you look at the mindset of the ultra successful, the most successful people in the world, it's so contrary to what happens in the church, in my opinion, and it's so contrary to what happens in the workplace. And it couldn't have been put better, but it's not work-life balance. There's no such thing as work-life balance. It's just integration. And what does it mean by that? There's a CEO, he makes $3 billion a year. Could you imagine making $3 billion a year? That's crazy, right? And, he says him and his wife are going on vacation. And he says, yeah, this is cool, but I'm going to work the first 3 hours of every morning. Like, I'm not taking time off to spend with you as a family. Like, I love to work. I'm here. I'm ingrained. I'm a part of my team. I'm leading from the front. And if an email comes up during the day, I'm answering it. If a call comes up during the day, I'm answering it. If a call comes up in the middle of the night, I'm taking responsibility of it. And it was interesting because this guy makes $3 billion a year. Like, I want to get that across the line. And I saw someone on LinkedIn send a message and say, hey, I was in a X store. I'm not going to share the store on the show, but X store, and I did not have a good experience. And I know this gentleman personally, and I saw him personally respond. $3 billion company, thousands of employees, 1,700 locations across the U.S. respond and say, hi, my name is X. Here's my email address. Reach out. This is the CEO of a $3 billion company talking to someone who had a bad experience in a store. And I think the biggest thing that we can do as, or you can do as pastors and me as a business owner is be there, is be involved, and understand that, like, when a kid has a crisis, that crisis might be at 2 a.m. Yeah. And if the response is, oh, I'm sleeping, oh, this is my time off, or if a kid calls on a day off, or if a kid reaches out on vacation, like, there's an integration that we're called to support these people. And the truth of the matter is, you may only have that one opportunity to save their life.
That's true.
And so I'm a believer in integration. And I think if the church embraces that integration, then that's an amazing and powerful thing. And I've seen many pastors who will say, nope, I'm on vacation. I'm not checking any emails while I'm gone. I'm not checking any phone calls while I'm gone. I'll be back in 2 weeks. and I'll deal with my stuff when I get there. And I don't believe that's the calling of a leader. I don't believe that's leadership. I believe that's pushing the buck. And I believe that when you care and when you there, and you can ask anybody who knows me in my office, like if there's an issue, anytime you can get a hold of me, whether I'm with my kids, whether I'm with my family, that's how it is. And I think that's the number one thing, because I'll tell you that in my experience, going to Westgate, did everything at Westgate resonate with me? No, it didn't. Was I a kid who was really wanted to be there? I was there for the girls. I'm going to be 100% honest. That's 100% why I was there. But when I reached a point of brokenness in my own life, like a point of, I can't do this anymore. I am so broken. Do you know that the first place I went was to the Westgate Chapel Church? Mm-hmm. And I spoke with a youth pastor and shared my whole story. But there was somebody there to listen and encourage and help. And it was just that one moment. Yeah. And if that person hadn't been there, guess what?
Who knows?
Mm-hmm. I would have found the next available resource.
Sure.
And that probably wouldn't have been a pastor. And then my experience probably would have been the church failed me. Mm-hmm. They weren't there for me when I needed them. Because in this world, the truth is it's all about me. And so I love what you guys are doing with the kids. I love what you're doing with the youth. I love what you're doing with the youth ministries. I know that we're supporting it. We're doing a bunch of scholarships, aren't we?
Yeah, we did, I think, about 8,000 worth of scholarships for these guys.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Sending, maybe 80 kids to camp? Something like that.
If you're listening to the show and you want to help the kids and you want to change the world and you want to do all that, this is where it starts. This is the battlefield. Yep. I believe this is the place where the battle is happening, because if the enemy gets the kids, they win the future, right? Yeah. If they win here, they win it all. So that's where it's our most precious battleground, is in our youth. And from everything that's on the internet, which is insane, right? Insanity, with suicide, bullying, sexting, furries, which I'm adding to my list of issues, right? There's just craziness going on out there. Just really dig deep. And how can they give to these ministries if they so wish?
They can go to Enbridge Global, and we have a link there that they can give. It's going to be 44321 summer camps, and you can give Bible Day. That's texting. You can text 44321 summer camp, and it'll take you directly to the link to be able to give to these guys.
Awesome. Guys, any final thoughts? Any thoughts to what I've shared with you?
Well, probably, yeah. But I was going to say about helping students get to camp. I have, a lot of times families have more than one kid trying to get to camp, and camp isn't always affordable. And so our camp is looking at $360 a student. And so to send 2 kids to camp, that's a lot right up front. And so, and I've had, there's families that go, I know what it's like to have 3 kids go to camp, and my kids are graduated, but I'm used to giving that. So here's this to, help get kids to camp. But the need is really huge. And to know that there's people that maybe don't even know these students from Fred, to go hey, we believe in young people. It's really huge. And so I'm just really grateful to be able to put kids in the forefront and see people support young people.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think I've noticed in Arlington specifically too, a huge need, where say if we take 50 kids to camp, you're looking at 15 to 20 that they can't even come up with any of it. Yeah. And like you said, if you have 3 kids, that's $1,000. That's for one family. Maybe it's a single mom or single dad, or maybe whatever it is. That's a good chunk of change. But like you said, I think the key is when people understand that, maybe I don't even know this student. I don't even know the name of the student that I'm going to sponsor. But realizing that this is literally the battlefield, and this is where decisions, lifelong, eternity decisions are made. It's a really big deal, and that's why we do what we do, because we love students and we want students to know that Jesus loves them.
Changing the world is changing a student's life. Enbridge Global, you can give there or text 44321.
Now, since you guys are hanging out with the youth, are you on social media?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And how can people follow you on social media?
Yeah, our youth page is just Arlington Youth. There's actually 2 Y's because Arlington Youth was taken, somebody in Texas. So Arlington Y Youth. That's where you can see what we got going on. We got a guy, he does a great job with our social media, see what the students are up to. It's a ton of fun, yeah.
Yeah, and we're on Instagram, alive.students.
A what?
Alive.students.
Alive.students.
Great.
Cool. Awesome. This was a fantastic show. Dave, any final words?
No, just thankful for you guys. Thankful that you guys are giving your lives to the kids of our community.
This morning, we are here with New Life and Arlington Assembly churches. And why this is important, why would we have a youth group or 2 youth groups on the entrepreneurial journey? And I really believe that this is the fight for our youth. There's a lot of things happening in this world, whether it would be, sex trafficking or suicide or death or many things that happen, or even like the tornadoes that we see or the natural disasters that we see. But this is our youth. And I believe if we don't take care of our youth, if we don't protect our youth, if we don't look out for our youth, then what are we really doing? What are we really saying? So at Enbridge, at TransBlue, at Condo Shield, at Evergreen Brands, at the businesses that we own that make an impact locally, regionally, nationally, globally, we really believe in kids. And a lot of the ministry that we support is around raising up, building, and supporting the kids. So today's show is really awesome because we're able to have 2 leaders from 2 youth groups in the Seattle market, which is a very unchurched portion of the U.S., one of the top in the country, really here to share, and we're really here to talk about how do we save our youth and what that impact is. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a leader, think about this. Think about the impact you have on your community. Think about how you can dig deep and support a ministry, support an organization that helps our youth, because as an entrepreneur who is given much has much responsibility. So think about what's in your community. Think about who those folks are, and let's change the world together as entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Dave Westcott. Thank you for joining the show. Follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, anywhere where it's social. I'm hanging out. If you like this, give us a like, give us a share, drop your comments in the comment box, and we'll get back to you. We're back every week, 9:15 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Join the show. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Mike Bott from Frost Solutions, one of the owners of the company. What we do is provide a mini weather station to give you a tailored forecast to those particular locations, so you know where and when and what to do in those parts of town. There's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different ways that people can experience tremendous value having a technology like this.
Introducing the all-new Western Enforcer V-Plow. Engineered with all the features, efficiency, and performance of full-size Western V-Plows, built specifically for your half-ton truck. For more information, visit westernplows.com.